Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please drop us up, drop a like, and let us know your thoughts below in the comments. Also, please consider supporting our podcast via the link below. It really helps us out.
Nick, welcome to the World XP podcast. How you doing, man?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Can't complain. Great to have you on. Obviously, we're teammates for Arlington, but you've done a bunch of cool things. You're creating content as well.
Yep.
Why don't you do a quick intro for yourself? Let the people know who you are and what you do, and we'll hop right into the question from the last guest and then the rest of your journey.
Sounds good. Yeah. So, what's up, guys? Pleasure to be on the podcast. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Nicholas Barahona. I'm 23 years old. Grew up in Arlington, Virginia. My ethnic backgrounds include Bolivia and El Salvador. My dad's from El Salvador. My mom's Bolivian. Fun fact, really quickly, I both am a citizen of Bolivia and of the United States. So I was able to get Bolivian citizenship when I was born through my mother. So that's really cool. I also, away from soccer, I create content online on social media. You can find me at NX Review and on Instagram and on TikTok and on YouTube as well. I do a little bit of food blogging on there, and I go around DMV, Northern Virginia, mostly in DC, and just shoot content with businesses and companies that invite me out, and also just my own food journeys, places that I really like. I like to showcase to people and put my friends on to good places to eat. And that really all started from VCU. I went to VCU for college soccer. So Richmond's definitely the roots in all of this. That's where I was able to be to explore and really get into food and to that culture. So yeah, I'm a content creator, soccer player, playing soccer my entire life. And I'm currently in the process right now applying to grad school. Graduated about a year ago. And so looking to go into marketing around the area in DC and Northern Virginia. So that's me.
100%. The question from the last guest is, what scientific discovery or breakthrough has most profoundly influenced your perspective on the world and why? You weren't prepared for that.
What scientific breakthrough has changed my perspective or opened, say it again one more time?
Has most profoundly influenced your perspective on the world and why? And we can open that up to like, has had the biggest influence on the world generally, but if you have personal anecdotes, of course, that makes it more fun.
Scientific breakthrough. Okay. Can I ask who the hell asked this question?
Uh,
No, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to say. You don't say.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's she's an entrepreneur. She was in tech for a while and she founded her own company. Basically, it's kind of like healthy, nutritious South Asian baby food. So like everything is whole sourced, plant protein, everything is straight from the ground. And so she's trying to revamp kind of how the infant slash toddler food industry does things with a South Asian influence. It's called Tales of Spoon and Spice, and her name is Neha.
Oh, nice. Scientific breakthrough. See, I was just asking that question just so I could think of the scientific breakthroughs that I can even think of right now that have changed my outlook on the world and perspective. Scientific breakthroughs, man.
Technology is also included in science, by the way.
Okay. Um,
There's no right or wrong answer either.
yeah, I know. I'm just trying to see how I want to go about this. Okay, so I would say for me, who does content creating and is on social media a lot and being introduced into like a world of analytics and marketing and advertisement through social media like a platform, I would definitely say probably the introduction of, and let me know if this counts, of the iPhone when Steve Jobs first came out with the iPhone. That definitely was like a turning point with technology. And I guess maybe would you call that does that count as
Oh,
something?
yeah, whatever you want counts, man.
Yeah.
Listen, we're
Okay.
not
So
getting
yes, it
graded
counts.
here.
Yes.
You
Perfect.
haven't
I
been
feel
out
like
of
I'm in
school
class
long
right now.
enough.
Professor, is that right? I don't know. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I would definitely say it's the iPhone. that just changed. I mean, like even now, after tens of years later, I have now the iPhone 13, and I remember during that time, it was like the coolest thing. Like I remember after that, like I got the iPhone 4S, and that was like the first time Siri is introduced, and I remember like begging my dad for it, like begging him, and I was like in middle school. I should not have gotten it. I think I was like in fifth grade, actually, not even middle school. It was like the summer going to fifth to sixth grade, and I remember literally the whole summer I would just come back from whatever I was doing and just talk to Siri like over and over again. And that was like the coolest thing to me, like having a robot you could speak to and answer questions and like just talk to. That was absurd. And then that's just like one part of it. But then you have the iPhone where it's like a smartphone. You're able to call. They introduce like FaceTiming now. And I think that definitely changed the trajectory of everything. Cause I mean, that was a huge thing. And even now you have like Apple products, you have like iPads, you have Mac computers, Apple products that are all connected together. And I'm just excited to see where it goes from there because now you even have those like Apple Pro like glasses, whatever the hell the things that
Yeah,
they have
yeah.
now. Those are insane. Like I have an Oculus myself, and I use that for a good bit, but it kind of it would give me a headache. One and two, it just didn't seem like there was that many things that were available that like intrigued me. Like I was just playing the same games over and over again, and it feels like I maybe have gotten that too like earlier, too too early, and I guess in like in the what I got it at a time where like there weren't that many things out, like that many games or applications that I could use because it was very early on. And now they're coming out like the next Oculus and now they're coming out with those Apple things. So I think in like 10 to 15 years, that almost like will be not the norm, but there will definitely be more available to do during that time. Like now you have like courtside seating, like when you're able to put those on, like that's sick. I didn't have that. I would do that honestly. Maybe I even will try doing that this summer, like trying to figure that out for the next NBA season because that'd be really dope. As you can see, I love technology and everything. So I would say the iPhone for sure. Smartphones in general. That for me is something that I now have a career. I'm able to make some passive income and hopefully a career out of using my iPhone. So shout out Steve Jobs, basically, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
You get an A+ for your answer, Nick. You haven't been out of school long enough. Um, you mentioned that you shouldn't have got the phone. Why? What? How did you come to that conclusion?
Because I was like so like now these days so apart from content creating and playing soccer, I have two jobs. I'll just like say them right now. I'm a school-based sub Tuesday to Friday 9 to 4 p.m. at Arlington Elementary School. Um, and I'm also a server at a restaurant. Um, and so when I'm in the setting in this school environment, these kids are, pre-K to fifth grade, and I already see like these first, second, and third graders. Some of them have like phones, and I'm just like, oh my God. But at the same time, it's like when I was like growing up, that when I was like personally for me, I was born in 2000. So when I was like in third grade, when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old, going to fifth grade, I that's when the iPhone was being introduced. But these kids have been born into a society that already has all those integrated into it. So I think it's very interesting. But the reason why I think I shouldn't have gotten it so early is because I was only honestly one of the only kids that had it in my grade. And I just know that like my dad got me like a PSP, if you remember what that it was, like a PlayStation, like a mini portable
Mm-hmm.
one,
Yeah.
and I just spent a lot of time on it, and definitely during that time, it wasn't like a crazy amount, but I was very like all about video games for so long. I was all about video games, being on my phone, and just yeah, I was really into it, and maybe I think that's a lot of what it was, like the technology being intrigued by it. But I think for someone my age, I definitely could have waited like a couple more years until I got one.
So we'll say when you have kids, or if, but when you have kids, they're not getting phones until later. Is
Yeah,
that fair?
I'm gonna get them a flip phone.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
It'll
flip
you have
phone's
to
the
go
way to
on
go.
eBay and find one for $1 million because they're not going to
Honestly,
be
they're gonna
around
be rare. They're
anymore.
gonna be the new style. They're probably gonna come out with that a new like type of flip phone by that time.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. So let's go back to then when you got the phone, not necessarily about the phone, but kind of what were you into in school? Was soccer a big thing or was it just a thing that you did for fun or like what kind of kid were you?
Yeah, no, I was really just a kid that loved playing soccer and would love playing video games, really. And so that's kind of where like the whole technology thing would go hand in hand. I loved hanging out with my friends, obviously. Like I would after elementary school, my grandma lived really close in Arlington because I went to elementary school in Arlington. Even though I grew up in Arlington, but my house where I was living at that time, from being born all the way up until I got into high school, before I started high school, I was living in Falls Church, but I'd always be in Arlington because my grandma lived there and the school was like a walking distance from there. So my mom would drop me off at my at my grandma's house. I would walk to school because school started like an hour after my mom had work. And so would go to school and then I would hang out with my friends after school was over. We would hang out at the park. And then I would walk back to my grandma's house. But yeah, no, I would play at that time, I think like rec soccer. And then maybe I was doing academy for Arlington at that time. So I would have practices maybe like twice a week. But I would honestly I mean, life was so simple back then. I would just get off of school, watch TV, get ready for practice, play video games, and that was me. But I always loved soccer like a lot. Soccer was always like a huge passion of mine. It wasn't something even back then. Looking back, I still remember like it wasn't something like I was like, oh, I practiced today, or it was like something that I did. It's like something I was looking forward to do and that I love doing. Like that, and
Yeah.
that thankfully that passion and that love for the sport, I would say probably grew and has always I probably stayed the same. I just remember always loving it, and like even now, like I probably will. I can assure you, I'll play until I die. Like it doesn't matter the level, honestly. And I would say I'm a pretty competitive person, but my love for soccer has probably been the same, and I'm just thankful for that. How it hasn't died, and that fire is still there inside of me. And I would want to say that that fire inside can also translate into other things that I do, and it can reflect well for me. But yeah, no, definitely was a kid that loved soccer and loved video games. So, I mean, I feel like a lot of kids could probably say that, but that was
Yeah.
me.
How was school for you? Boring? You didn't like to pay attention? Like,
I was a really, I misbehaved a little bit in elementary school. Middle school was a little bit better. Um, but no, I wasn't a bad kid in elementary school. I remember my teachers would always tell me, and I didn't even understand the word until like fifth grade. They said that I was a procrastinator. And so I had no idea what that meant. And I told my mom one day, I was like, what does that mean? She was like, Nicholas, are they saying that to you really? And I was like, yeah. Someone obviously, at this point, we know what they're doing, like just not doing my work and like trying to do other things and just like hold it off. And that's sort of true now. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really like school that much, if I'm being honest. Like it was more just like for the friends and going to middle school. I actually had a great experience I went to Thomas Jefferson Middle School, which was actually an IB school in Arlington. It was Thomas Jefferson, Swanson, um, Kenmore, and Williamsburg. I want to say those were the four middle schools. And that was very diverse. So that was really cool. A lot of different ethnic backgrounds. So it was really cool to have a group of friends that were, Asian, Black, African American, white, Latino. That was really good. That was really, really cool. So I played soccer there at the middle school. I didn't make it my sixth grade year for the team, but I did my seventh and eighth grade. So that was a lot of fun. I played basketball too. There, I'm a huge. That's one thing too, actually. Huge basketball player. I could have gone D3. I was getting scouted. Maybe we can say that for high school, but I love basketball too. And one would say if I decided to play basketball, because they got to a point where I had to choose, I, man, I wouldn't. I love soccer, don't get me wrong, but I also love basketball probably just as much as I love soccer. I played AAU growing up, which if you don't know, is sort of like travel. So there's
hmm
travel in AAU, but AAU is more competitive. So that's more like if you win and your team is good, you're not only ranked, but you can go to nationals. So I played on like competitive teams growing up. We would play in DC. If you don't know already, like you have Kevin Durant and a bunch of guys who are from the DMV that are now in the NBA.
Yeah, Carmelo is from DMV. John was
Yeah,
John Wall from DMV as well? I don't
No,
remember.
he's I think from Atlanta, somewhere else. But no, great talent
Yeah.
nonetheless. And so it was really competitive, and we would play teams in like tournaments that we would get completely demolished because like these are guys who are, I swear, like there's this one guy. Oh, what's his name? I swear he plays. There's a guy. His name was like something Anderson. He was like a journeyman. Like he's played on a couple teams.
Kyle Anderson.
Is he like a big? He's like a pretty tall guy. He's like a role. He's not anything
He
crazy,
went to
but
UVA.
yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. I played against him,
Hold on, let
and
me Google because there's Kyle Anderson. And keep talking.
yeah, no, I played against him one year, and he must have reclassed, and I don't know. I don't know if I don't even know how it happened, but he was disgusting. He was like dunking on everybody, and that was when he was younger. He was like, I want to say like 2 or 3, 4 years older than me. I don't know how we ended up on the same court, but he was ridiculous. And he's a name that obviously I'll never forget. But he was crazy. But there was this one team called DC Assault that would win nationals like every year, and we would get smacked by them by like 30, 40 points. And they were just like grown men playing again. Not like actually, maybe they were like a couple years older because in basketball everyone in classes. But we were getting demolished. But yeah. Big
Justin
basketball
Anderson.
player growing up. Yeah, yeah. Is it him?
Justin Anderson, yeah, and there's
Yeah.
also Kyle Anderson, who's
The one
also
that
in the
U
NBA.
UVA, yeah, the UVA guy, yeah.
But Justin Anderson was the one that played at UVA.
Okay, yeah. Um, yeah, so basketball and soccer were pretty big. But yeah, going back to the kind of kid I wasn't really into school. And then I guess going into high school, I went from public school to private school. And so I went from Thomas Jefferson Middle School to a private Catholic school in our Arlington slash Falls Church called Bishop O'Connell.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely a switch. And the first year, I like failed a class. I failed Spanish, and I'm a freaking Latino. I would failed a freaking class when I was the only Latino kid in it, and I wasn't even in advanced. I was in Spanish one, but that was just because I didn't do the work, and I was just like, "This class is so dumb. Like, why am I in here?" Like, but I didn't do the homework, and I would somehow not even do that well on the test, and I wouldn't do like the writing assignments. And I remember it got to a point where I was playing varsity soccer at that time too, so I went there to play soccer, and
Mm-hmm.
so I was playing varsity soccer, which is a huge deal. Only like 2 or 3 freshmen made the varsity team, and I was believe the only starter. I played center back, and that was a great time. It was lovely. It was great. It was great. Thinking back, that was like it was like nerve wracking, and but we had a great team. We made it to the final of our conference. Unfortunately, lost to DeMatha in overtime. That sucked. The math was pretty good though. They had some pretty nice players, but that should have been ours. But yeah, it was a great season. But freshman year though, I failed a class. I had a terrible GPA. This was like the first semester because there's the first and second semester. I want to say like it splits into two, or maybe there's four quarters, 2 semesters. So the one half and then second half. First half I did awful, and that was the same. So for Catholic school, we play in the fall. So right when school is starting, we have our season that's starting up. And so my mom was basically like, she was getting really upset at me, and she was getting yeah, really, she was really disappointed. And I remember, she would kept getting upset on me, kept like punishing me and everything. But I was also like playing soccer, and like thankfully she wouldn't take that away. But I remember it got to a point where she was like, Nick, I was also playing freshman basketball too in the second semester, but I finished up soccer season and I was going to basketball and I still wasn't improving. And then it got to a point where like my grades started affecting me because for basketball, I don't even know why for soccer, but for basketball, my grades got so bad that I couldn't play, so I had to sit out. And then my mom was just like, she talked to me. She's like, Nick, like I hope this is a lesson, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna get upset at you anymore. I'm done trying to tell you what to do. I just want you to know though, the embarrassment that you have from not playing and sitting and watching your friends play, it's gonna be you the next 4 years. If you want that, that's fine. Go ahead. And I want you to know if you really want to play college and want to be a pro, like you say you want to do, and be a soccer player or basketball player, whatever you want to do, then I want you to know you're not gonna do it and you're gonna feel bad about it and you're not going to amount to anything. And she was like, just being straight up, you're going to be someone who just goes to high school and that'll be that. And I remember after that conversation, me, feeling really bad because I could tell I was really disappointed, or my mom was really disappointed in me. And me and my mom were very close too. And so just her having that talk with me really changed my perspective. And then from there, it was like sort of like a switch. And from there on, I performed way better in like high school. I guess I started like trying really, like before I really had like I don't care about school attitude.
What do you think that was from? The I don't care about school.
I don't know really. That's a good question. I think maybe it was like I was playing varsity, and I think a little bit was the transition. Public school or private school is way different. So anyone who doesn't know about who hasn't gone to private school, or maybe didn't go to public school, went to private school their whole life, or went to public school their whole life, it's a huge switch in terms of how classes are smaller. One, and if you're going to a Catholic school, most likely you're having a nun as your teacher. I had three in my freshman year, and I had one for my homeroom. So one of my homeroom teachers was a nun, and she was really strict. Her name was Sister Elizabeth, and she was just like no nonsense. old
Do they
fashioned.
still hit you with the rulers?
No, thankfully not. Thankfully not. But it felt like when they yelled at you, it was like you were getting freaking hit. It was scary. Like you were like when they would start, like you would like start flinching and everything because she was just ruthless, but not in a bad way. I wouldn't say like she wasn't like a mean person or a bad person. She was just like, if someone wasn't following the rules or instruction or talking while she was talking, she would go off on you. And it was like more of a respect thing. But that was really hard, and so that was an adjustment. And then honestly, classes were just harder. There was more focus on you to perform well, and like the material was a bit harder. And then this is when I started doing theology for the first time. So every year we had a theology class that you had to take that was mandatory at this Catholic school. So I was learning about that for the first time. And, I have to wear, uniforms. So it was a lot more, official, I guess you could say, than just public school.
Yeah.
And so that's what made it a little bit harder for me. But I also did have like okay, I'm playing like soccer and varsity, maybe like attitude. So like, school's like whatever, like I'm fine. I'm like, but it wasn't until that reality check of me not playing, when I got kicked, like not kicked off, when I had to like be basically on timeout for basketball and not play for like 2 weeks. And my mom having that conversation with me, continuing not to do well in school, is when I really switched it around. So after that year, going to the summer, I was like, okay, I'm going to change my ways. And then sophomore, junior, and senior year, it was great. So I changed. I got like over like a 3.5 my sophomore and junior year, and then it was cool sailing from there.
What were the summers like? You mentioned in the player spotlight, that you're talking about the sacrifice of what it takes to actually to reach those levels. At what point did you realize, like, when did that change for you? So when you're like fifth grade, sixth grade, whatever, you just go where your parents go and you don't know how to train, or like you're
Yeah.
12, it's like whatever. But then at some points, like late middle school, early high school, the ones that start to excel at whatever sport are the ones that are training and playing all the time and doing it. So when did that change for you? Was that summer after freshman year, or was it after that?
I would say that it was starting to happen after that freshman year, but I would say sophomore to junior, I would say it was what really picked it up for me. When I started, I'm trying to think. Actually, maybe it was that freshman and sophomore year, because I had my coach who was coaching the high school. His name is Chris Jennings. He does coaching at NBU with Brian Welsh, and I was playing on Annandale, so I played on a bunch of teams. Honestly, so my trajectory, I started at Arlington, and then I went to an all Spanish team called Cugini, and this featured players that I don't know if you're familiar, but I played with Nelson Blanco, who plays on North Carolina FC. I
Mm-hmm.
played with Alexon Sarvia, who plays on like El Salvador, like first division team. He's like a center back and a midfielder. And I played we played in an all Spanish league, like in Maryland. It was an experience, and it was intense, but it was good. And that was like the practices were intense. And like it was like one of the first times where like there was a coach that was like really like on you, like and like the best way possible, to like it was on you to like improve. And like, like this it gave me a picture early on of like what it's like to really put that work in, really, to phrase it shortly. And so that I honestly got hit by like a truck, though. Like it felt like I got hit by a truck, like just being in that environment. But it did help me though, and it showed me what I needed to do and what I wanted to do. And these players that were really good and aggressive, what they were doing. And so from there, I joined Annandale after that, after a year playing there. So I played at Annandale for maybe like 2 years. And then from Annandale, I think that summer, moving from freshman year to sophomore year, I moved to BRYC because that's where Chris Jennings was coaching at that time. BRYC, and that was a step up. And our team was pretty good. We ended up in the end, junior senior year, having like eight, I think, or like four to six D1 um, players, and then other guys were going D2, D3. But we had a solid team. I remember one of the first tournaments when I was with BRIC, we ended up playing Arlington Red. That was like OBGC tournament, and I wanted to say that was like sophomore year. Um, and we ended up beating them in the final, so that was huge. That was awesome. Obviously, beating like your old Arlington team that like you couldn't, and you never played on Arlington Red, never made it to the B team, and so that was really cool. And so we were a pretty good team, and that was when everything started to like pick up for soccer, and like things started getting more serious. Trainings at trainings at the Spanish team, like I said, that really showed me what we do. Like we were doing a lot of cone drills. Like I was actually like tired after practices. Like it was like a lot of work that my body wasn't used to. And so, like I said, that really opened my eyes to it. And then Annandale was decent. Like I actually really like the coaches at Annandale. The practices were really, 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 really helpful, I guess, tactically. So that was really cool. And then so BRYC though was definitely a step up. And our the year above, Jared Valdez on our team,
Mm-hmm.
his year, the 99s, because I was on the OOs, they ended up winning the nationals. So we would practice with them regularly. And so the practices were always good, as you can imagine, that talent that they had. They had Juan Benavides as well, Marcos as well was on that team. And so it was a great group of guys and a great pool of players to improve your game. And so I would say probably, yeah, that freshman summer moving into sophomore year is when it started picking up and I started training in the summer, playing in the summer. And that was something like I was playing soccer probably all the time.
How much of that was internal? Like, I need to train to keep up with these players versus you had some coach say, hey, you could play in college if you start to train. Like, how much was external versus internal?
Yeah, I mean, the college thing, I wasn't even like I knew I wanted to just always play soccer, but it wasn't like I didn't have that clear vision of like, okay, D1 soccer. I just knew I like honestly thinking about college soccer didn't even pop up into my head until like late like junior year, honestly, where yeah, like I just knew I wanted to keep playing and like I wanted to play pro. Like that was just me. Like I just okay, pro. Like I want to play on Chelsea, you know? That's what you're telling yourself when you're younger. That's like the player you want to be. But it wasn't until like junior year where I was like, okay, like college, like you're taking the PSAT, practice SAT. It's like, okay, college, you're just getting introduced like college showcases now for BYC. We're going to college showcases. So these players, coaches, you're going to combines during the summer. And so it kind of just like happened so quickly, I remember. And I was like, okay, wow, like college. I don't even know what colleges are good. Like D1, D3, what's that? D2, is there a difference? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I can get a scholarship now for cool, awesome. Um, but one thing I would say is when I was playing on Arlington and I wasn't making the teams, I was so hurt, but I always like believed in myself. And I would say that I always had, like I said, that fire in me of like just like working hard and being like, okay, like I know that maybe I'm not the level, but I know I can put the work in and I know that I'll be able to prove myself and I'll be good. Like I always remember that even when I was like in third, fourth, fifth grade, I was like, dang, okay, like I know that like this isn't it for me. I know like I know one thing for sure is I know I'm not going to quit. I think that was what it was. I know there's work to be done and I know I'm not going to quit. That was just one thing that always kept pushing me. And so I would say some of it was I would say most of it was internal. I wanted to, I'm competitive too, so I wanted to improve my game and I had that hunger of like not maybe being always like the best player or the top player um, to fuel me and knowing that I did believe in myself and that like, okay, maybe he's better than me, but I'm gonna work harder than him. And even if it didn't work out, like I said earlier, I'd be happy with myself knowing that I tried and that I put the work in the end.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's for younger players listening, that's definitely good piece of advice to
Mm.
always believe in yourself and to
Yeah.
put the work in because you can always outwork people, right? Like if you
Yeah.
don't let anyone outwork you, then you'll have opportunities places because coaches like seeing people that work hard.
Exactly.
Um, talk about the college recruiting process, right? So obviously you said that you were just kind of you didn't know and you went to showcases and combines and whatever, and you were kind of just there because it feels like you're supposed to be there,
Yeah.
which is kind of how it was for me, but a little bit later, right? So I was
Yeah.
very young for my grade, so I was playing with my age was like with people that were the grade below. So by the
Hmm.
time they were going to showcases, I was already like a senior and I'd missed the year and it was too late and whatever. And
Yeah.
so anyways, but so what was it like for you? Like what's the process like for you? How did you end up with VCU? Obviously, we talked about the you got the grade situation sorted out and so that was okay. But what was that process like for you? And from the perspective of if there's people, younger players listening that like what would you change? What would you do differently? What would you do the same over again? Kind of how was that whole process like for you?
Yeah. So I remember towards the end of junior year, like I said, I was like in junior year was when I first really was like someone came up to me. It was either a coach or my parent, and we had the conversation about playing in college. And so like everything from there on out was like, okay, like this is the thing now. This is the goal. But it was still very new to me. And I wouldn't even it was like probably the summer going into senior year where I was like, okay, like I feel like I was honestly behind. But I remember going, this is a funny story. I remember going to I think the end of my junior year, going to like a combine. It was like one that it was like a CCL combine. So BRYC, I want to say we played in like CCL. It was like the league. It was our league conference, and so they had like a combine for all the players, anyone in the CCL who wanted to go. So I went, and I had a great, I had like a great showcase. I played a lot, I played really well, really, really well. But I remember like a lot of coaches like were coming up to me and talking to me about like GPA and like talking to me about my plan. I had no answers for them. Like honestly, like I was like panicking and like I didn't know. I remember the Navy coach was like came the Navy assistant coach came up to me and like was really interested in me after I like had played right in front of him. And I just remember like just not knowing what to say. And I was just after that, I think that's what it was looking back now where I was like, okay, like this is real. Like this is I need to be prepared next time. I need to have stuff like I need to know my GPA. Like I need to know exactly what my GPA is, and I need to know like what I want to do. Like I want to be able to if I have an opportunity, potential opportunity, I want to be able to take it or put myself in the best place for it. Like my email, like not even knowing really what my email, I think even at that time was like not even getting a contact from the coach. And so after that, I really, worked on. I made a resume for myself, and I didn't make a highlight tape, which I should have done. So I would rec. That's what I would say. Yeah, not having a highlight tape, and I didn't do that because it ended up working out for me in the end because of BRYC, and I had coaches. We had some coaches who would come to our practices and come to our tournaments, so they were able to see me there. But nonetheless, I would highly. It's a must, honestly. Every player needs to have a highlight tape. And I would say as early as you can make it from when you're starting to even play high school, your first year of high school, travel, whatever, start making tapes, start recording your games, just have like the film. You should be watching your games. It's another thing. Watch your games, but record every moment that you touch the ball because you can make that into a highlight tape in the season. Those are so essential to have. Those are so important. Even now, like in our level, having a highlight tape could get you on a UPSL team, get you an in at that, other than just like someone talking for you. The coach can see you do that. Going and playing on a pro team. All of them are going to ask you for a highlight tape. So that's very important. So that's something I wish I would have done then. Obviously, it worked out for me, but yeah, so let me think. So that happened, and then yeah, I figured out that okay, this is something I want to do. I need to be prepared next time. And so from there, we had a bunch of like, oh, that was a big thing. So the Disney Showcase was a big thing. I went junior and senior year of high school, and there were a lot of coaches there, a lot of coaches. But I remember my junior year we did so bad. We did really, really bad. And at this point, the BRYC did a really good job of creating like a profile. The manager or the coaches would give like the team sheet to like the coaches who were there, so they would walk up to them and they'd be able to see everything there. Um, but I also just started writing emails after emails. I would basically have a prompt or not a prompt, like I would have like an email written out, but basically like talking about, I'm a 6'3" center back,
Template.
play varsity for O'Connell. I'm a captain on BRYC. We are nationally ranked. We placed this in National League. I've played however so many games with them. We won these tournaments, just something nothing crazy long, but something short enough. You get who I am, you get my height, you know how many pounds I am, you know who I play for, how well we've done, and that's pretty much it. And so I started sending emails. I remember I would spend days towards the beginning of my senior year. I would spend all day, and obviously senior year you get senioritis, so like you're getting ready to graduate. But I remember I was just sending emails anytime I had the chance. Like I was sending emails after. I'm not joking. I probably spent hours. I probably sent over like 500 emails to different coaches, like from D1 to D3, all over. I would see the coaches that would be at the games, at the tournaments that I was going to that weekend, and I would email all of them. I'm not even joking. I would email all of them. And so maybe from all the emails that I sent out, let's say I sent like 100 emails out, or maybe I sent like 30 emails to coaches that were coming to the tournaments. Maybe like 2 or 3 of them would answer back, and maybe only one of them would be like, okay, maybe 2 of them would come be like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna come watch your game. At least for D1, a lot of D3 coaches I would send, they would respond back. And I kept doing that. And then it got to a point where I was in talks, pretty good talking with VCU, ODU, Northeastern, and then a D3 school that I was actually interested in, Eastern University, which I think was like a Catholic or Christian school in like Philly, or yeah, somewhere over there. And so I ended up visiting the Eastern, and it was pretty cool. But this was like still in an area and a time because they were really interested. Like, they see like they're a D3 school, and there's nothing wrong with D3 or D2, D1. But obviously, I have a friend who coaches now D3, and it's like a lot of kids, have high hopes of playing D1. But Eastern was a pretty good school. They would make the tournament pretty often, and so they were like really like wanted to like speed up the process. Like I was still talking to these other D1 schools, but I still had nothing like locked in. So I wanted to like explore the option. It was an experience for me. So I went to go visit over there. They really liked me. They showed me around. It was a cool experience. You have the overnight stay. You're staying with the players in the dorms. You go to their practices. I was able to practice with them a little bit, so that was really fun. And so that was a cool experience. And I would say, like, a quick piece of advice: never turn down, like, don't ever burn any bridges down. Don't ever like ruin any opportunity for yourself. I would say I'll always be open, because you just never know. You just never know.
Hmm.
It doesn't hurt. And so I had that. And so that was the first experience for that. And that was really, really cool. But I was getting towards like the middle of my senior year, and we were having more like important college combine, not college combine, college exposure tournaments. And so I was in talks with, yeah, VCU. Oh, no, that's what it was. We had states. We had states. So it was a senior year of states, and this was like the big deal. It was like McLean, us, um, Rush, Virginia Rush. That was a pretty big team. And then there was like another team. I forgot the name of them, but it was me, us, and McLean were like the top two teams definitely in our
Yeah.
region. And this is the team that Maverick played for too,
Hmm.
because Maverick was an OO. Maverick, he plays with us. He's a striker. He went to VC with me as well. And so it was the quarterfinals. We had teams coming up. And so I was talking with ODU, Northeastern, and VCU, and these were like the D1 schools. And so um, not only was I talking with them like on email, but also like my coaches, like they have pretty good connections. And so that's how I was able to get like the VCU. The head coach at VCU said, like, I'm looking for some center backs, some defenders. Do you guys have anyone? They set me up. We were talking. Northeast and I reached out myself, and they were able to catch me at a tournament. They liked me, so they were coming to the state quarter and semifinal games. And then ODU as well. They saw me and they liked me. So these were like the for sure like really only contacts that I was having at that time. And so yeah, I have quarterfinals. We win. It's a solid win. I played well. Semifinals comes around. We're playing them, and this is a team, I forgot their name, but this was a team that we had gone back and forth with like every season, and it was like low key like a rivalry. And so we actually ended up having a good game. I had a great game. We ended up winning 3-1 with like 10 minutes left. And ODU and VCU wasn't there, but ODU and Northeastern was there. And yeah, finishing out the game, there's a long ball that gets played over. I go to run towards it. The striker behind me that we've been going at it for a little bit just completely takes me out. Takes me
Mm.
out. I go hit the ground, and I end up breaking my collarbone literally that game with like 10 minutes to go in the semifinal. And like I just remember like when that happened, like I was in shock. But it's interesting though, like that happened, and I was in shock that, oh my God, like this really happened. And it was funny because it was the same day as my formal for senior year. So my ex-girlfriend, unfortunately, she was cool about it. She went to go see me at the hospital, but I wasn't able to experience a formal. Even though I was able to go to prom, I wasn't able to experience a senior formal, which sucked. But yeah, that definitely affected, my journey. Nothing was certain at that point anymore. Eastern was still around, but I didn't really hear from ODU after that, and then Northeastern didn't really hear from them after that, unfortunately. They were like, "Hope you get better, keep us in the loop," but after that, they really didn't. They didn't. I tried contacting them again, and they didn't answer back. That's how it goes. Like, unfortunately, I mean, they probably had other players,
It's
and
the
they just
nature
lost.
of the business.
That's the nature of the business, honestly. So, and that sort of like not pissed me off, but it gave me like more drive and hunger. Like, okay, like they're not answering back. All right, watch. And so I got surgery for it. I have like 8 screws and pins or whatever in my. I have like a plate and 8 screws
Hmm.
in my collarbone here now. And so I had surgery, and I was out for like a month and a half, and then I missed the final, which we lost unfortunately to McLean. And VCU, I was still talking slightly to VCU, but I wasn't playing anymore. I had to rest. I wasn't playing any sports anymore. But I remember I wasn't down at all. I was really just like, the month went by so quickly. Month and a half went by so fast, and I just remember like I'm gonna be okay. Like I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna do what I need to do. My rehab. I'm gonna keep my legs strong, and everything will work out. I just remember that. I remember it going by
Yeah.
really fast, and still me having a lot of hope. And so funny enough, I come back, I practice like for a week. I'm feeling all right, still feeling kind of tight, but I feel good enough to play. And it's sort of like I need to play because it is our Disney showcase, which is in the winter time, or not winter time, was it? Maybe I don't know. It was this Disney showcase for my senior year, and this was probably like
December, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah, December. Yeah, actually, yeah, 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 yeah,
Let's
yeah,
give it a
exactly.
we'll give it a goog. So okay, so you're playing Disney Showcase, and the other ones are kind of out of the picture now. So how did the is this Disney Showcase how the deal gets closed with VCU?
Yeah, so I go into my Disney showcase, and this is my first game back after being gone for like 2 months. And so it's funny, I'm warming up, and my coach comes up to me and saying, like, yo, like, I'm gonna just tell you straight up. I was like debating whether I should tell you this or not, but we have like the VCU head coach is still looking for some players, and he was basically saying if you play good, then you have a pretty good shot of getting something out of this, like, or going to VCU basically. And I was like, oh shoot, okay. And I play that game, and literally like the first 10 minutes, our goalkeeper gets a red, or not our goalkeeper, sorry, my other center back gets a red card, and so we end up losing 3-1 that game, right? But we go to like a three in the back, so it's just like me and actually, no, it was our goalkeeper. Our goalkeeper did get a red card, and for some reason we didn't have a backup goalkeeper, so my other center back had to go into goal, and so it was only me playing there in the back three,
Hmm.
and it ended up helping me out so much because I actually did very very well. We were playing against like a strong like New York team. They had a really good like striker. I forgot where he went, but it was a really really good team. But I ended up doing really really well. Unfortunately, you have a center back that's not playing, who doesn't play goalie. So like it was like off a set piece or like corners
Yeah.
that they got sort of score their goals. But I had a solid game. I had a really solid game. And this was my first game back too. And even though we lost, the coach was really impressed by me. And then before I knew it, like the game was over, and the coach like came up to me. He's like, "You did really well." He was really satisfied. And then the head coach, Dave Gifford, came up to me and said, "Great game, son. We'll be in talks." And then sort of from there on out, I think it was only like 2 or 3 weeks. I was talking to their assistant coaches. We talked on the phone. I went to go visit, and then before I knew it, I was a part of the VCU recruiting class of 2018.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very nice. That's crazy for a first game back as well. A bit of pressure. Okay, so walk me through the transition for you going from high school to preseason at VCU. Obviously, it's a jump up in level, jump up in physicality, speed, um,
yeah.
intensity, everything. How was what's the transition like? Where obviously, and then you go through preseason, so you get some level of time to get acclimated to the team before you have to readjust again to new classes and how college works.
Yeah.
But what was that transition like for you?
Yeah, so that transition was it was I don't think I couldn't have ever expected how it was going to be. So it was crazy. It was definitely like 0 to 100. Like it was like a pro environment. For VCU, it's very much a pro environment. And we had a lot of kids who were from overseas, a lot of international players. I would say maybe like 70% were from out of the country. And so that was really cool experiencing different cultures, but there was a different level. And most of these guys were guys who had played, like academies, but maybe didn't get like a first team contract. So they came to the United States to get an education and also play soccer, um, on scholarship. And so I remember it just being way more professional than I could have ever realized. I definitely I wasn't ready for it. I mentally and physically probably. But I remember it being very, very, very intense, but also being very exciting. I did enjoy preseason, and it was really cool being in that environment and just remembering like the nerves and like the 2 a days. Like sometimes we had 3 days, doing the ice baths in between, getting introduced into like the team trainers, and like going in to like get massages and going to do the Normatex. Um, doing yeah, the ice baths were crazy. Like we would have our sessions in the morning, and then we would go get like lunch, and then as a team we would always like go to Chipotle, and they had like the team card. We would get and all like anything we wanted to. So I would load my burrito bowl or burrito up. We would get guac and chips. We would have ice baths. You would take like a 2 hour nap, and then you were back at it for like the evening session. And then after the evening session, we would have dinner together. They would cater for us. And that was like every day for like the first 2 weeks before preseason games would start. And something that I really liked about that was cool is that we would have to report to campus like 2 weeks before students did. And so we were there, like we were the only ones there. Like no students were there yet. So it was just like a soccer guys. So you're really just in an environment in your circle with all soccer and athletes as well. Other athletes that were doing fall sports. It was just that. And we
Yeah.
were in our own apartments too. There was like an athletic slash music apartment where it's mostly just athletes though. And that was right next to our, like, it's called Sequel Center, which is like the athletic center, really. And so yeah, you're just with your guys, and it's really cool because we bonded a lot. And I was in a dorm with Jared Valdez and two other soccer players too, and we were like right across from other athletes in our teams as well. So that was really 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 cool. And then you sort of get like another dynamic when I joined my high school team, I was on varsity. That dynamic between like the freshmen and seniors. You're intimidated a little bit, but they were all great guys, and we had to earn our stripes for sure. Like as a freshman, you're like carrying all the waters, the bottles, the balls, you're picking up the cones, and you're taking crap. Like you have to dance in front of everybody. That was the worst. I hated that so much. I hated that so much. But you have to sing in front of everybody. It's like typical things. But um, I would say that it was a high level, and I definitely wasn't ready for that high level. And it took me probably like a year and a half to even 2 years to really adjust to it, to get to that level. Honestly, it was for VCU. There were a lot of great players that I played with. Like there's one player that got who got drafted. I remember my first like he got drafted to San Jose. I think he was like number 2. His name is Saeed Haji. He plays, I want to say, on Vermont now. But first practice, I remember just going 1v1 against him, and like I blinked and he was just like past me, and I was just like, what the heck? And my body just wasn't ready for 2 days, if I'm being honest. Like I was getting cramps, like I was just tired. I lost so much. I mean, everyone was losing weight. I probably lost like 10 pounds during
Yeah.
preseason, all that water weight and everything. It was ridiculous. And so that sort of started getting me introduced to like health and nutrition, macros, protein, carbs, because we had like a nutritionist too. It was just so professional, like honestly it was crazy, which I loved a lot. um and then so yeah, you have 2 weeks to get sort of like used to everything, and like you become boys with everybody on the team, and then like classes start, but also like preseason games start too. And so you start learning how to like manage things sort of, and they give you a lot of help, like give you a lot of resources. And freshmen, you have mandatory what is it
Study halls.
study halls. Yes, you have mandatory study hall. I believe you have to do like 3 or 5, I want to say 3 to 5 hours a week. Like you need to clock in. And so there was a center where you went in, you swiped your card, and then you would need that amount of time, or like you couldn't play or practice. That would be your punishment. But they also gave you tutors for classes if you needed help. So that was really nice. And so it was all new though still. Like thankfully I had like juniors and sophomore friends and teammates that would help us and help the freshmen out, like telling us how everything would go. And also my athletic counselor was really cool. My advisor, she helped out a lot too. And it was basically her job to make sure we didn't fail our classes and everything was a smooth ride. But in terms for the soccer level, it was high. It was a huge jump. It was a huge, huge jump. Um, and yeah, it took me a while to get used to it, but I think looking back now, it was a great experience. Playing with top level players, really top level players. It just gave me another view, sort of like back when I first played with that all Spanish team. I was like, whoa, like this is a different life, really. This is crazy. I kind of had that moment too when I joined college soccer at VCU. It was like a wow, like these guys have been doing, like they've been doing this, like they've been in a pro environment their entire lives, it looks like. And it really translate, like you look outside of the United States, you go over to like England or like Europe soccer, when they're like young kids, when they're playing in the academy teams, they're doing things that maybe you don't even start doing until like you're 15, 16 here. But kids over in Europe are doing that when they're like 9, 8, 9, 10. They're learning about tactics. They're learning about like aggression on the ball, all that stuff. But here, I mean, I was playing rec. I was running around probably in circles when other kids at my age in Europe are like doing things that are intentional, and like, it's just different. It's different levels. Definitely just levels to it, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. Um, First minutes as a VCU player. Um, Substitute, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we played a preseason game my freshman year against Maryland, and that was
What's the feeling like? You're standing at half field ready to go in. Are you like shitting
I'm
yourself or like
nervous. Yes, literally, I'm so nervous. I'm ridiculous.
did you know you were gonna play before?
No, I didn't. I didn't
Okay,
know.
so is this the first preseason game of like ever, or had you gone
I
through a
think
couple
it was
games
the
where you
first
hadn't
preseason
played
game
before?
ever. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't know you're gonna play. You
No,
are you assuming that you're probably not going to at all,
I ex I thought I was
or
assuming I was going to at least play a little bit.
like at the end or something?
Yeah, which
Okay,
ended up happening. Yeah.
yeah. All right, so coach called Nick, go warm up. You're going in immediately. What's the thoughts going through your head as you're like standing at half field and you like running on the field?
I am so nervous. I am I'm trying to think about like, okay, like what do I have to do? What are my responsibilities? But honestly, I walk in there and like this is against a Maryland team that ended up winning the national championship that same year. And so you had good players on that team. And I think we were down 1-0, I think at that time. Um, but they were a nice team. But I just remember like going to like a race track, like everything was like zooming around me. And I was just like nervous. I remember the first play too. I walk onto the field. I end up receiving a ball, and this guy, their winger, is running at me like 100 miles per hour. It seems like, and I just get like taken out. But somehow, like I was able to take a touch, like sort of like around him, but he's like still takes me out. But somehow the ref doesn't, and I just get up really quickly and I just like pass the ball away. I'm just like Jesus Christ, and I don't remember the rest of the game after that, honestly. But I remember just being really nervous and just running into somewhere that I feel like it was just going at 1,000 miles per hour.
Oh, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did it get easier that year, or did it take you like at what point are you going into games and you're comfortable? And what was the transition like, or was there a moment where you're on the field and kind of everything's like, yeah, I'm good. I know how to play at this level.
Yeah, yeah. I would say it was probably I want to say my third year going into preseason, my third year, um, where not only I started to feel really confident, but I was also getting like more opportunities to play. Um, it was when the summer going, I think, into my second or third year, I had a decent summer, and I got a lot of confidence playing summer soccer, which is like very common for a lot of college athletes. Obviously, when the season's over and when summertime's come around, they either go to like a USL 2 team, they play NPSL or any league just to get. Usually, you want it to be if for the higher level players, they go to like more like a professional team, like maybe like a second team. But for other players, I would recommend going. It's always important to go somewhere where you're going to get like guaranteed minutes, where you're going to play and improve in soccer. There's no point in going to a team that even if they're higher level than other teams, you want to play. That's the whole point of summer ball. And I just hope that a lot of people realize that even if you think that you're playing at a lower level or you don't belong to, it's just about getting those reps in. They're so important. Then use that to show them that you belong at a higher level. Score like 10 goals if you're at a level that you think is way below you. You know what I'm saying? Dominate, make sure you're like the best one, make sure you get MVP of the season, whatever. But I had a really good summer, at least like I was confident. I got some playing time. And that helped a lot in towards my confidence and just being ready for like fitness for the preseason. And I went into preseason, I was rocking like a stash. People called it like an adult movie star stash. But
Oh
yeah, I
my
was rocking
God.
just a fat stash here. I would shave everything else. It was just fat stash right here. But it was sort of like part of like my like, yeah, this is like the new me. This is like how I'm coming into
The
everything.
evolution of Nick.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, that was going really well, and preseason was pretty good for me. And I was buzzing. I felt as fit as I ever was, and I felt like my touch was there, and I was just like, I was on one. And then I remember, I believe that was the season where I started getting more playing time. We played Wake Forest. I got into the end of Wake Forest, and I remember a big key thing for me because at that time I was actually playing. I wasn't playing center back. I was playing six, so I was playing like CDM, and obviously my profile was, and this is something that my coach like sort of ingrained into me, or something that I remember. from him and all the things that he would say was that like he would say like you can he was basically saying there's like you can try practicing everything of like every part of your game. Like let's say like you want to get a good right foot, you want to get a good left foot, you want to make sure you're good in the air, you want to make sure you're good at kicking. But the reality is that the players that already know what they're good at, making sure they're exceptional at it, making sure that if you're like someone who's fast, then you're the fastest kid on the pitch. You're working on your explosiveness, making sure that any person that tries to run past you or not run past you, you try to run past, they're never catching up. If you have a wicked shot, then make sure that 11 out of 10 times that you're hitting it on target and that you're scoring half of those. If you have a good shot, don't worry. If you have a really, really good shot, you shouldn't be wasting your summer trying to perfect your weak foot ping on the ground to make sure it's like a daisy cutter every time. You need to make sure you're working that every time you get put in a position where you should score or hit it on target, you're hitting it 12 times out of 10. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So making sure the things that you're already good at, like for me, tall, should be winning every ball in the air. I feel like I'm pretty good, like technically, as that's like kind of characteristic that I have as a soccer player. So making sure every pass is clean, making sure that I'm someone that a coach can rely on to make sure I hit every pass with my size, left foot, right foot, lob passing. And so that's what something I just always remembered for him saying. So I really worked on my fitness as well. I was put in a position where, okay, I had to run. I was a position where I had to like cover for my teammates, make sure that I'm winning the second balls. And so I was just all about fitness and making sure I was really, really fit. And so that's what ended up happening. One, every ball that was in the air, I was making sure I was never tired. Like after games, my fitness was really, really, really on point. And being technically good as for someone my size. So I was starting to get more playing time, got into Wake Forest, which was really cool. We ended up winning that game. And then I would say probably my favorite game ever, because there weren't many like this. UNC, they were like top 5, I want to say, and we were like top 20 at the time. And this was like mid-season, and one of the sixes that I would go sub in for ended up getting injured. I want to say like at halftime or like maybe like 10 minutes into the second half. He ended up injuring his knee, but he was ended up being okay, but he injured his knee. And then I went in and I played like 50 minutes, maybe 60 minutes. And that game was electric. Like those are the games where like it was at UNC away and it was like a big game and they had like a packed stadium and like the lights are on. It's like 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m. And that was like I went into that game and like I just remember like that feeling of like, oh, like you could feel like the electricity in the air.
Mm.
That's like something where it's like, oh my God. And I haven't had too many of those in my career. And that was definitely like a highlight just going into that game. And I remember the first play that I went in because I was playing the six. I went to go tackle their left wing. He had kicked the ball, and I was like, okay, I'm getting to that. I went, did a full like 2 foot tackle. Somehow, I win the ball, and I'm like, fantastic. It's about to go out of bounds. We'll regroup. I go to slide tackle with 2 feet. I win it. Somehow it hits his shin though and rolls up, and he hits it like with his chest and goes past me. And I'm like, bro. But I get up, and then I get up. I chase him back down. We're in a 1v1, and then he like just like kicks the ball between my legs and then runs into me and falls down. And they call it. And like it's funny too because this is something I hadn't experienced in high school. You have like the people who are like in the fans, like just like, hey, oh my God, you just got megged, like
Yeah,
trying to like
yeah, yeah.
and stuff like that. Especially at UNC, it was like packed. They had a whole student section. We ended up tying that game in the end. It was like 1-1 or 2-2, but that was a great game. But that was a cool game. And then from there, I want to say I made a few more appearances as a sub. But that UNC experience definitely the highlight of the season. Unfortunately, I think it was maybe like a couple weeks after that. I got an injury where I sprained my ankle at practice. I got scissor tackled, and my ankle just you hear the crack.
Yeah.
I remember that happened, and I was like so blown and upset. I was really down bad, and like it took a really big mental toll on me. And I was not. I was in the right headspace. Like I was pissed off. I was angry like at the world and like at the team, and I was just like basically like why me, and like just having a lot of pity for myself. But I was in the gym a lot. I couldn't move my leg, I couldn't run and do anything, but I could lift, so I got pretty big, and I was like this is when I was managing my health a lot. But I just remember I was out for like 2.5 months after that. Like I tried rushing back into it, and I think that made it worse. And then this was like an ankle injury that lingered on for maybe like a year and a half. Even now, like my ankles aren't too strong. Anyone who has an ankle, who sprains their ankle or has ankle problems, they know it never really like sort of goes away, especially with like any little tweak sort of like just makes it really sensitive. But
Yeah.
yeah, that really sucked, man, because it was the best I had ever felt during that season. And just like that, the season, it goes by really quickly for college soccer. You're playing 2 games a week, 3 games a week, and then before you know it, you're starting your conference final, and that's over. It's over. And then that was honestly, looking back now, probably that was basically my VCU career. After that, I made like some appearances, but I never was able to get into like the starting lineup. And then um, there were players that were really really good that came, and that's sort of just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. There were a lot of great players that came in my last year that were really really good, Jamaican international players, Senegal players, and they were great players, and I just was never able to break into that starting lineup. And I remember though, after my injury, when I came back, I was pissed off, I was angry, my coaches were like noticed it, and like they had a conversation with me. And it took me probably like from my ankle injury, maybe like 3 months, until I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like I need to get out of this headspace, because I wasn't enjoying soccer too much anymore. Like I was like, oh my God, like I was playing so well. I got injured, like thinking about like what could have been the trajectory that I was at, and just being upset that I had put so much work and it just seemed like it had just gone just like that. Like my
Yeah.
fitness was gone after that. My touch didn't feel the same. I couldn't even kick a ball anymore with my right foot. Even when I thought I was getting better, I felt like I couldn't like extend my foot the same way. I couldn't ping a ball the same way anymore. And so that honestly sucked, but it tested me. And even though I was in a bad headspace for a month or two, I was able to get out of that and still prove to myself that I was able to put in work. And so I was still going to the gym, and like I looked the fittest I'd ever, even though I couldn't move, I was still counting my macros and calories, and I was like pretty cut, low body fat. And so that was really good, because that's the only thing I really had, like making
Yeah.
sure I was like still good with that. And so yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, that was I'm trying to think where we go from there. I
The food
remember,
stuff. When did the food stuff
yes,
start?
oh my God, yeah. So COVID, yeah. So COVID comes into play. Yes, COVID comes into play. I want to say the year after that, because it was my no. Oh my God, yeah. So
What
COVID
was
happened.
what was the brain? What was the thought to start that? Were you just like, I'm enjoying food, even though? So I wanted to ask you this actually, because and also in the player spotlight, you talked about your pregame meals, but also you go eat at these restaurants, and I look at some of the videos, and I'm like, that looks delicious, and also like my stomach would hate me afterwards. So, but like, what was the thought to start that? Were you just going out and enjoying food, and you just videoed it one time, or like, how did that even come about? And then, yeah, when did that come about, or how?
Yeah, so yeah, COVID happens my sophomore year, going into, or yeah, my sophomore year, spring break. So we go on spring break. I go visit my friend in University of Miami spring break. It was a lot of fun. And then, but I was still like, I would go run at University of Miami's track, and that was really cool going to run over there. And I practiced at their field too, even though I wasn't allowed to. I went when everyone had left. But I remember from there on, we didn't go back to school. Like COVID was got way worse. Like I remember when I got back home from Miami, if I would have left like a day or two after, I wouldn't have been able to fly back home. And so that turned into like, obviously how it went down, like, the pandemic, and then like the lockdown, blah blah blah. But I remember we still had our season. Like after lockdown was over, we were still able to play. We were the only teams. It was like us and basketball, I think, that were the only teams that could play at that time. So we got really lucky. But I didn't go back to school. I didn't stay in the apartments. I stayed with my friend Hugo, who lived like 30 minutes away from campus. And I just had so much free time on my hands. And even then, even though like soccer was still a thing, it seemed like life was on pause. So what I ended up doing was, I was always someone who loved Snapchatting food, taking pictures of food, even before I started my Instagram. I loved food. Correlation between like food for me is like, family, my grandma, mom, love, good time, celebration. I have a big family, so every time we would have gatherings, the food that they would make was just incredible. And so I contribute my love for food to my family, from connecting good times and good food all together. And so I just started an Instagram, honestly. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to start posting something. And I want to say I probably was on social media a lot at that time. And this was before Reels were a thing. So everything was static posts. But I think I just saw something that like inspired me like to just start doing reviews. And so I already had pictures of a bunch of spots in Richmond because everything was Richmond based at this time that I had gone to. And I would make like if you go back in my page all the way to the bottom, they're still all there. I would say the first like 30 to 50 posts are static posts and it's a review of somewhere in Richmond. And when I went to California, the place I would go there, review it basically like a Yelp review, but I would review it until like I literally could not write anymore. It would like it would say the captions too long on the thing. And I knew when I was writing these and sending them out that nobody obviously I would be surprised if anyone was reading all of them. Obviously, I had people who supported me. I didn't even know what it was going to be at the time. It was just something I loved and was passionate in. And so I sent those out. I would post consistently, and then I just realized how much happiness I had from it and being able to share my thoughts and just share the food that I really enjoy to other people. And people loved it too. I mean, who doesn't like some pretty good food? And so from there, that goes on for a little bit. And I really don't think anything of it, but it also made me realize how much I was able or how much I loved writing. And so going from there, I was able to, like a year after that, I was able to get on my school's newspaper and I had my own a column in the newspaper at VCU. It was called the Commonwealth Times. I was a staff writer, and I was able to break into that. And I did like 15 pieces for them, and so that was amazing. And then as Instagram continued to grow and how everything came back to normal, Reels come out. I start making videos just for the heck of it, just to see what that's like. And then some time goes around. I start making more Reels. I understand, what can make this trend, what can make this sound better. I see people doing also what I'm doing. And food for a little bit, you saw food like was becoming like a big trend, like reviews and
Yeah.
everything. Even now, obviously, now it's sort of like steady, but before it seemed like a lot. There was like a big trend on like food reviewers and like food being a huge thing and everyone
Hmm.
into food
Like
this, food
Portnoy
that.
was doing the pizza stuff, and
Exactly,
yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff, and that was just getting a lot of attention, and so that was really cool. And so before I knew it, honestly, I was creating a video one time, and like when I would go to I had restaurants started hitting me up to come try their food, and like think about it, as a college kid getting free food, like what? And so a lot of these things I was just realizing as I was going to them, like, wow, I'm really getting free food for this, or like, wow, like these people are calling me like an influencer. Like, what is? I don't think I'm an influencer. I only have like hundreds of followers, or like only a few thousand followers. Like it's still like even now it's just weird. But I just remember like one day I was like, wow, I guess I am really content creating. Like someone was asking me a question like, how is it being content created? I was like, wow, yeah, I guess I really am one. Um, and so that was really cool. And everything with that page just came and doing like food review stuff. It all just came from like a passion of honestly just posting pictures about food that I like and just writing about it and just like talking about it and wanting me to help the business out and help my friends eat at good places. And then from there, you have like figuring out, analytics, insights, advertisement, marketing, and that sort of I've loved that so much. I've loved the whole process in that, and that's why I want to go to school for marketing. For That's what I'm applying to for grad school, and that all comes through just doing that. And what I think has been the best about it is that just doing something I'm so passionate in. So it's been so easy. Like it doesn't even feel like a job. Like I'm able, thankfully, now to make some passive income with it and make a few thousand a month from it. So it's honestly a blessing and just so easy though at the end of the day because I can do something that I love to do. And sometimes I can't believe it, and I'm just really grateful for it. I also think anyone could. I think anyone and everyone could do it as well too. Like I think you can create anything from social media, anything you're passionate in. I think you could make a little business out of it, and it's just something I've been able to enjoy and continue to enjoy. So I'm just thankful for that.
Do you eat all of the food? Like if you have a reel and you've tried like and you've got like four appetizers and three entrees and two
Yeah,
desserts or whatever, or like do you bring people with you or do you
yeah,
have portion control? Because speaking for myself, if I had all that in front of me, I don't know how I would I'd probably have to just run out of the restaurant before I ate
yeah.
all of it.
Yeah, no, I get asked this all the time. People are like, I don't know how you're not fat, or like how people will ask my friends like, how is he not fat, or how is he able to do whatever. Really quickly though, I want to go back. Richmond, like I said, is the roots of everything.
Hmm.
I was able to integrate myself into a community in Richmond. It's a city, but it's not like DC or New York. It's not as nearly as big.
Yeah.
I was able to integrate myself in a community. that outside of soccer, for the first time ever in my life, where it was like something not about soccer, like this writing stuff that I was doing, this food stuff I was doing, was like a break away from it, or just like a life outside of it, which was great. I met a lot of great people who were foodies like me, doing blogging, lifestyle. I met chefs, people opening restaurants, startup CEOs, people, yeah, starting up companies, and just a bunch of great people, and like just like people who were living in Richmond. And so that helped so much with my experience and just me loving it so much. I think that's honestly what it was. That helped me so much. So forever have love for Richmond. It's like a second home to me. But yeah, the food thing. All right, so I'm gonna tell you something right now, and it shocked me when I first experienced it. I went to the MGM for an event last Christmas, and I saw some of my or I saw some foodies, some influencers who I'd seen online, and this really opened my eyes in this sense, in the food sense, and influencer sense, and content creating sense. Some of them were taking pictures of food and recording food that they weren't even eating and talking about, and I'm like, I was so shocked and so disappointed because I was like, well, like, and could I have even been surprised? I don't know, because like it's social media, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do you expect?
Nothing is real. Half of it, like
Nothing is real.
not
It made me realize that I was
or like
like,
1% of it is real, maybe. Like
exactly.
some very low percentage.
But I realized after that, I was like, you know what? Like, no, like no hate to them. They can do what they want. You have to realize, like, people have to realize everything on online is like not real. It's like fake, really. Like you can't expect it to be real. It's like a false reality almost, right? But I realized, like, the person that I want to be, like, okay, like, no hate to them. They do what they do. They make the content they do. They put in their hard work. They can do whatever the hell they want. I'm not gonna judge them for it. I just know the kind of person I want to be and the content creator that I want to be, and that's all you can hope for. Like, I'm not going to be someone who posts about or shows videos of food that I'm not eating myself. But for the food part, I always eat everything that is showcased in what I'm recording. Do I eat all of it? Hell no, because I would not. One, I would not be able to eat all of it, and two, I well, actually, I bring friends to these things, so they help me out. But most of the time, I'm always leaving with a bunch of leftovers that are just in my kitchen that I throw out at the end of the week. Unfortunately, I eat some of it throughout the week, but it's a lot of food sometimes. But I will admit there's some places where I tell myself I'm not gonna eat a lot because I have practice, or like, we have games coming up. But sometimes, man, the food is just so good. I can't pass it up. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. But I do just try a little bit of everything. And that's just how it goes as a foodie. I mean, a lot of us struggle. I have a lot of foodie friends now and who do what I'm doing. And it's always a struggle, but I always leave with leftovers. And I think the cool thing about it is taking my friends to experiences. So I'll take like my mom and dad to like a nice place that invites me out, so we'll be able to enjoy a dinner or a lunch, and then I'll take my, like, maybe like my boys out to like all you can eat brunch, and like, maybe have some mimosas, and then I'm able to not only hang out with my friends, provide them with food, provide myself with food, provide myself with content that then hopefully will give me more opportunities to do the same thing for my friends or my families or whatever, and to grow my business. So it's a cool exchange.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
Some of the videos look like some of the food I look at it and I'm like, oh, that looks so freaking good.
There's a lot
Um,
of good food here.
Yeah, 100%. So many small spots as well. Like it's like if people want to know, they should go follow was a next review, right? Is what the
Yes.
Instagram is. You should go
That and
follow because if you're looking for spots, like even if you go into like Google Maps or whatever and you type in restaurants near me, half of them don't even show up anyways. So, you found some super cool spots, some ones that are definitely on the list that I need to try. Um, but so you're creating content for the food. You've also got your the 100 days thing on your personal page. What
Yep.
was for what? Just because?
No, so like, oh, that's a great question. So the 100 days is something like a little project and something to prove to myself that I'm able to be consistent for 100 days. And also, if I'm being honest, my NX Review brand and company has just shown me how much I really love creating content. And like, I'm someone who, ever since I was little, like with my phone, has recorded like everything that I've done or that my friends are doing. Like, I remember when I was younger, like my friends would be like, why are you recording all this? And so, but it's like funny now because now they're asking for like all the videos from when we were younger. And I'm like, oh, I thought you didn't want me recording. But I was always like, you can ask any of my friends I grew up with. I was always recording something, or I always had my phone out doing like recording whatever we were doing, taking pictures of whatever. But I've honestly like, so I also have a podcast called the Hungry Thoughts podcast. um First half of the season is over, and so it's a 10 episode season. First 5 episodes have already been passed. We're now scheduling the last couple few to finish off the second half of the season, and that's based in Richmond. But I was able to just see like the different avenues of social media that I could get into, or like media production and content creating. So the podcasting was one. I was watching podcasts. I love Joe Rogan, even though that might be controversial, but I love Joe Rogan just
It's
because.
not controversial. If
Okay, good,
people
good.
think it's controversial, then they haven't listened to it enough.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. And he also covers UFC, which I love.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think he has a lot of great guests on. I think it's a lot of great conversations. And at the end of the day, too, people are entitled to what they believe in too. And I don't think he's a bad human being, especially after
No.
hearing him and knowing him for so many years. I feel like anyone who really watches him or knows the person he is, I think he's hilarious, and he's a great dude. I love him. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, podcasting was one, and I was like, oh, that's dope. This is awesome. I also through an event my senior year at VCU, that had over 300 people come, and I kind of incorporate. It was called Spook RVA, and it was like during Halloween time. I incorporated food stuff that I love. Invited three vendors out, food vendors, and I invited three thrift vendors out because I love thrifting and I love like fashion style and everything. And I made an event that integrated all of that, and I was also part of a VCU blockchain group, and that like deal with Bitcoin and NFTs and all that jazz. And I was able to make an NFT for that event, and that was something that not that many people knew about, but my boys at the VC and girls at the VC blockchain knew about. And so that was really cool how I was able to integrate everything. But that was like another thing, using my NX review to help like get a recognition for that. And so that was really dope. And I just realized how much I love doing that as well. And that sort of came from my NX review, wanting to help food vendors out. And I invited all local food vendors who are near Richmond, empanada spot, a funnel cake spot, and then this Filipino spot. And people loved it, and they were able to get a lot more business after that. So that was amazing. And then my friends who do thrifting, I was able to help them out, and there was like over $10,000 in sales for them too. So I had one of my friends who does orange peel, he's been killing it so far. He sold out everything that he had. He brought bins and
Amazing.
stuff, and he sold out. And so yeah, so the 100 days thing, I was able to realize how much I love social media and content creating. Like I said, I sort of just like realized how like I am really a content creator, and how I'm able to make money off of what I love to do, and that's just like one aspect, like food. And so this 100-day thing is really not only to be consistent, but also like to motivate and inspire people who are thinking about doing something like content creating, and just doing it. It's something that you're passionate in. If you're an artist, making reels about the art that you make, because people don't really honestly realize how much potential there is. There's
Yeah.
so much potential in this content creating. And I don't say just do it for the money. Do it if you want to, but I would just say just try. If you're thinking about it already, then just try to do it, and you never know what could happen. There's so many people, and this is the thing, when you're on social media so much, I've followed so many people that from the past year, 2 years, have just started at somewhere and have grown. Like I follow people who have like over 100,000, over 200,000, even a million followers, who I was following when they had like less than 10,000. And like, I just love their style. And they were like no one different than you or me, man. They're just
Yeah.
someone that like doing something, but we all have the potential, and we all have our own stories and all the things that we do. And the beauty of it is that social media, all these million of followers, man, they're going to be people. I'm sorry. They're going to be people that are intrigued of what you do. And so that's more of just seeing what I can do and what happens from it. I have a lot of high hopes for it moving forward with my own personal life. Um, and I honestly just love content creating too. So it's not a huge thing that's like that's like costly or like stressing me out. It's something that I honestly put out, and like I laugh and like and get a lot of joy from. And I can only hope that the fortune and the joy and opportunity that I've gotten from my NX review can be translated with my own personal like Nick Barahona life um experience.
Yeah, dude, it's been you've had some bangers on those for sure. I think the
Yeah.
Giuseppe intro to the one a couple of days ago
Yeah,
is a good
exactly.
one, 100%.
Yeah.
And then also in terms of people just trying it, also they have to remember different platforms will do differently. Like for whatever reason, Reels doesn't really like podcast type things, but YouTube Shorts does. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then also it's like, what are you using it for, right? It's very difficult to monetize content, but you don't have to get the money straight from ad revenue or whatever. It can be like opportunity cost of networking, and you meet somebody who then introduces you to somebody else, and then like it's just how do you grow, and it's all those hidden opportunities that come later your way. And so
Exactly.
um people that I say this a lot when people ask me like, why do you do it? It's like if you start doing it because you want to get rich, like it's not gonna work. You gotta do it because you like doing it. Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So what's next for you on what's like next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years? Obviously you're applying to grad school, you got the food review, you got the podcast going, you've got the Nick Barahona life experience things. Like what's the next couple of years looking like for you?
Yeah. So next couple of years. So um so for my, I guess just to state for my NX review, when I started, like I said, I was a novice, like as just being on social media and going through like doing posting on my NX review the past like 4.5 years. I Reels came out, I had no idea how to use it, but slowly and surely, like I started understanding hooks. I understand grabbing people's attention. I understand, making sure you're being strategic with your words, making sure you cutting out any blah blah blah, making sure you're only putting what needs to be put, and understand what people want to see. Like, are you after you make your video? Is this like you put yourself in a viewer's shoes who's never seen you before? Are they going to be interested in it or not? Like making sure you maybe add a little bit of like something that's like, oh my god, did that just happen? Grabbing people's attention. And so for this NX Barahona 100 days thing, I have already experience with that, from the food end, and it's definitely different. But it'll be interesting to see and how as I continue to incorporate the 100 days, adding, other little things, other little snippets that maybe can help me gain some followers. Because right now, with what I've seen, this just gives you some insight. Through my insights on these 100 days, I've been able to get like a lot more people to my account, but not like following. So like now I'm at a place where it's like, okay, like people go to my account when I post about food. If I get like a lot of like if I get over like 10,000 people who are not following me to come to my account, some of them might follow me just because of the food, because they're, oh my god, this person who cares about the guy, like this guy is telling me about good food. Oh, this looks really good, let me follow him, maybe I'll see more good food. But when it's a person, it's like my life, but and they might be intrigued and might be getting people to come see it. But what will get them to follow me, and that's what really, is the, I guess, not the goal at the end of the day, but something that I'd want to like see how I can get their follow. How can I get them to follow me? How can I get them to join me in my journey? Um, and so it's going to be fun going through that, because again, I feel like I'm at the very early stages with NX Review. Like I understand the video process of it, but how is it now relating it to my own personal life? Not just food and me doing food. Nick Barahona is a food reviewer or food blogger, but Nicholas Barahona and my life in general. And so that's been fun, sort of like coming up with and brainstorming ideas how I want to implement that. But yeah, next 3 5 years, hopefully would be going to grad school, learning a little bit more about marketing. I have dreams of moving to New York. For a long time, that was kind of hindering my, I guess, like reality in life, because I was just like, oh, I want to go to New York so badly. But I've sort of just accepted that, like, if New York happens, I'm hoping it happens, and if it's meant to be, it'll happen, and that definitely is something that I'll shoot for. But right now I live near DC. I mean, that's crazy. Like when I traveled to Europe, people were always asking me, oh, how's Washington DC? Like what's that like, living in that capital and all the museums and monuments? And I was like, wow, like these people are right. Like I just have been so close to it, where you just like don't realize how cool it is, and there's so many good spots. And so I'm just enjoying, saving money, living at home, being able to, when I go to grad school, not having to pay for rent. So I'm really blessed in that. And so I'm really just like enjoying the now. But yeah, plans though still to move to New York or just somewhere different. And once I finish my podcast in Richmond with my Richmond media company team, to move my podcast here to Washington D.C. and sort of open that more, because that's more food based, and I would still want to keep it around food, like Nick Barahona, like being a foodie, but also just open it up to whatever I want. So maybe like inviting anybody, not just like someone who's related to food, but any, like even having my friends and just having like a laugh, just having
Yeah.
like an episode where we can just hang out and just like get people to know me more of like my personality. For my hungry thoughts, it's like getting to know me through food, and I've loved that. And I've learned so much doing podcasts. Like my first podcast, like talking to the camera and everything. Oh my God, it was so nerve wracking. You have the lights and everything. You have to see yourself. It's
Yeah.
nerve wracking.
It
But
takes a
now,
while.
yeah, but now it's way easier, and I feel more comfortable on camera and speaking. And so that's been great. And so I kind of want to just open that up just to all of me and not just having it so just like solely on food, but just being it open, just like this is Nick Barahona, this is what we're talking about today. And sort of just like have people come for me and the person that I am. And also that, that means I'm a foodie, I'm an athlete, I'm a content creator, I'm all these things, but hopefully the people can enjoy that. So that's the plan. So I'm currently looking for people within DC area who are interested in that. And so I'm also looking for a co-host potentially too for that for the end of next or for the end of this year, hopefully to get that started and planned. Um, Continue my NX review. I am someone who has been blessed with a lot of opportunities, and there's sometimes obviously with social media, seeing the highlights and everything, you can kind of get sort of down and just like, oh, like I'm not successful, like I'm not a millionaire at like 24, 25 years old, I failed, you know but I just look back and I'm just making sure I realize like the blessings that I've been bestowed upon me. Like I've worked with a lot of great companies and a lot of great organizations, and I've made a decent amount of money where I'm at right now. And so that always just like keeps me calm and just like hopeful. Like I know that I'm gonna be okay. So continue my NX review brand, get the LLC. Bring out some merch too with that, continue doing that. And then I also want to get into social media management. So that's something that I also want to do through like marketing and everything. Start managing social media accounts for restaurants and companies on the food end and start getting some, consistent revenue through that. And so I'm hoping that I can gain a couple clients in the next year or two and build my resume up for that so I can start getting bigger deals with that. Um, and continue playing soccer, man. Honestly, wherever I'm at, I'm gonna always be playing. Soccer is one thing that'll never leave my life. I, it's crazy, man. Like I could still, like I have no problem like waking up in the morning and go kicking the ball around, playing pickup. Like I live for that. Like every summer, man. Like it sucked too because as I got older, a lot of guys stopped playing high or stopped playing in college, stopped caring really about soccer.
As you
So
got
like
older, come on, man.
yeah, no, seriously, like, oh yeah, I know. I guess because I'm not that old yet, but yeah, guys just stopped playing or maybe just gave up on whatever. But for me, like, I will always be one to like someone reaches out to go practice or play, like I'm there. Like I'll go play pickup morning pickup soccer and night pickup soccer. So soccer's always going to be there, and I want it to always be there. Whether that's adult league, if for whatever reason, if it's adult league, UPSL, NPSL, whatever league, I will always play. And if any opportunities come in the future for soccer as well too, like if I just have like a breakout season or anything, a coach comes to me that sees me, I will 100% take that risk because soccer or take that opportunity because soccer, I'm serious, man. Like it's such. I think what helped too is the World Cup, seeing Messi win too. It just like, oh my God, man, that it just showed you like this past World Cup. I think was one of the best World Cups that will go down in history. I think, in my opinion, you
Yeah,
cannot write a better script. I think, in my opinion, like I was watching. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend. I'm sure you have. Captains of the World, the Netflix documentary.
haven't seen it.
I would say it's great. It shows like the World Cup like in a movie style format. It's like 10 episodes. Watch like 45 minutes episode. Please watch it. They have interviews of like the players and they do like the highlights. It's really cool. It's really cool
Is
on
it
Netflix.
similar to the All or Nothing type documentaries on
Very
Amazon?
much so. Very much so.
Okay,
It's
well, I'll
it'll
have
get
to
you
check it out
buzzing.
because
Like it gets you. Oh my God, it's amazing. But yeah, soccer, continue doing my content creating, hopefully grad school, hopefully can find myself in a new environment in like 5 years. I love traveling. I went to Europe this past Christmas, did a solo trip, and New Year's I went to London, I went to Valencia, I went to Rome, and then I finished off in Amsterdam. And so just
very
continue to
nice.
travel, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sounds amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Any where should the people go find your stuff? And obviously the links will be in the description, but where should they go if they're interested in checking your stuff out more?
Yes, of course. So you can look up my podcast. Number one can be found on YouTube at The Hungry Thoughts with Nick Barahona. There are 5 episodes done, and every episode is a freaking banger. It's not too long of a watch, too, 20 to 30 minutes, really in and out. So it doesn't take too much of your time. So you can go check that out. That's collaborated with Morset Media, awesome team over there based in Midlothian, Virginia. They make the quality and production exquisite. And then for socials, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at NX Review. That is at NX Review. And yeah, if you want good eats and good times, check me out. And I actually have a shirt here that I wanted to show. This is one of the first shirts. This is my catchphrase. So as always, wait, as
There
always,
you
eat
go.
up.
There you go.
Yep.
Amazing. That's awesome. So are those available to order now?
Soon they will be. Soon they will be. Soon
Sounds
they will
good.
be.
Any last thoughts before we get you out of here?
No, man, I just want to appreciate, or I want to say thank you, and I appreciate you inviting me out to the podcast. This was great. Thank you for allowing me to have a platform to talk about me and us to chat. It's been great.
Yeah, amazing. Go check all the links out in the description as always, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.